If you're an American and have been driving for any length of time, then you probably have some idea of the most dangerous times to drive in the United States. Or do you?
You got it all wrong.
You might think it's during the icy winter months that are known for massive pileups, or spring break when everyone is headed to Florida beaches. Well, except Miami. How about rush hour during the busy work week? What if I told you that the most treacherous month to be behind the wheel is not during the summer, and that rush hour on a Friday afternoon is actually not the most dangerous time to be on the road? Welcome back to FinnaTravel. Today we'll be unpacking the most dangerous times to drive and how you can stay safe on the road. We've all been there. You're cruising down the highway, windows down, music blasting, not a care in the world, and suddenly you find yourself in the middle of a traffic jam, surrounded by honking horns and frustrated drivers.
Sorry, little traffic.
Now, all it takes is one distracted driver coming up over the hill behind you and someone gets hurt. Now, I've been in my fair share of accidents, and while I'm thankful no one was seriously injured in any of them, they were all still extremely nerve-wracking, and I still have some back problems from some of them today. Let me try something. If you have never been in any kind of car accident, let me know by hitting that like button. But if you have been in an accident, leave a car emoji in the comments. According to data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, there are approximately 100 fatal accidents on U.S. roads every single day. Now that's a sobering statistic, but the risk of being involved in a collision isn't evenly distributed throughout the day or the year. In fact, when and where you drive can have a significant impact on your chances of arriving at your destination safely. If you're looking to avoid the most dangerous time to be on the road at any given day, you may want to steer clear of the 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. window. During this hour, an average of 5.57 fatal collisions occur across the country, making it the most treacherous time to be behind the wheel. While there is an increased risk from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. depending on where you are, 9 p.m. is the most deadly hour to drive in America. It's not hard to see why. As the sun sets and darkness falls, visibility decreases, and driver's depth perception and peripheral vision can be seriously impaired. Even with high beam lights on, you can only see about 500 feet ahead of you, and that's not accounting for the glare of oncoming traffic. Drivers are also more likely to be impaired, tired, anticipating less traffic, and driving more brazenly because of it. Now, this does vary from state to state and different times of the week, but we'll get into that shortly. You gotta remember though, darkness isn't the main contributor here because the safest time to hit the road is actually in the wee hours of the morning between 4 and 5 a.m. During this time, there are far fewer cars on the road, and the average number of fatal collisions drops to just 2.34 on average. Now, this doesn't mean that you should plan all of your drives for the crack of dawn. After all, who wants to sit around at work for 3 hours when you could be sleeping? Alright, we've settled that afternoons are the worst time to drive, especially late afternoon and into the evening. But what about days of the week? If you thought the weekdays were bad, just wait until the weekend rolls around. Saturday takes the cake as the most dangerous day to drive, with an average of 4.68 fatal accidents per hour. This number peaks between 9 and 10 p.m., with a whopping 7.08 fatal collisions during that time. And Sunday is no picnic either, with early morning hours from 3 a.m. to 4 seeing more fatal crashes than the typical weekday morning rush.
Stay home. You only make this worse.
So, what's behind this weekend spike in accidents? Well, a combination of factors likely contributes to the increased risk. For one, weekends tend to see more leisure travel, with people taking road trips, visiting family and friends, or heading out for a night on the town. This influx of cars on the road can lead to more congestion and a higher likelihood of collisions. Additionally, weekends are prime time for alcohol consumption, and drunk driving remains a persistent problem on American roads. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, one person dies every 45 minutes in the U.S. due to a motor vehicle crash involving an alcohol-impaired driver. That adds up to 32 preventable deaths every single day. But it's not just the partygoers who are at risk on the weekends. Drowsy driving can be just as dangerous as driving under the influence. According to the National Safety Council, 21% of all fatal crashes are caused by a sleepy driver. With so many people catching up on sleep on the weekends or staying up late to socialize, the risk of drowsy driving accidents increases. If you're looking to minimize your risk on the road, you might want to plan your trips for Tuesday or Wednesday. These 2 days have the lowest average number of fatal collisions per hour, at 3.46 and 3.5 respectively. Of course, this doesn't mean you should avoid driving altogether on the weekends, just be extra cautious and aware of the increased risks. I have a story about my brother who did just that, which I'll tell you about in a minute. To be fair, these statistics are average for the United States as a whole. But what about your state specifically? Not all roads are created equal, and the most dangerous times to drive can vary drastically depending on where you are in the country. Coastal states tend to see the highest number of fatal accidents in the evening hours, while central states are the most dangerous in the afternoon. In New York, Georgia, and Illinois, for example, the most treacherous time to be on the road is between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., while states like South Dakota and Kansas see the most fatalities between 1 and 2 p.m. This regional variation can be attributed to a number of factors, including differences in infrastructure, population density, and driving habits. In densely populated urban areas, pedestrian fatalities are a particular concern, and fatalities typically happen between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. New York City, for example, has seen record numbers of pedestrian deaths in recent years, prompting calls for better infrastructure and safety measures. For these areas, investing in protected bike lanes, improved crosswalks, traffic calming measures that slow down cars just might give pedestrians a fighting chance and help save a few lives each year. In more rural areas, the infrastructure issues tend to be poorly maintained roads, lack of lighting, and limited access to emergency services, which can all increase the risk and complications of serious accidents. So, is it the government's fault for not using our taxes more effectively and providing better infrastructure? Well, maybe in part, but we all know not to rely on the government.
The government in this town is excellent and uses your tax dollars efficiently.
So what can you and I do to stay safe on the road, no matter when or where you're driving? Well, a common thing we hear and see everywhere is buckle up. Do I think seatbelts are good and help keep you safe? Absolutely. Here's something I've always wondered. Should wearing a seatbelt be enforced since they don't actually prevent accidents? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments about that. According to the National Safety Council, seatbelt use is 45% effective in preventing fatalities among front seat passengers who are involved in an accident. Some other ways to stay safe are securing loose items in your vehicle that could become projectiles in a crash, and ladies,
take your feet off the dash.
If you do find yourself in a dangerous situation on the road, knowing how to maneuver your car can be the difference between life and death. A couple things you can do to keep safe is take a defensive driving course or practice emergency maneuvers in a safe, controlled environment. And of course, we all know this, but we should be reminded of it regularly. Never get behind the wheel if you've been drinking or are feeling drowsy. Staying alert and focused on the road is crucial for drivers. This means putting away your phone, avoiding distractions, and being prepared to react to changing conditions. This happened to my brother not that long ago in what would have been a very serious accident. Here's what he said, and I quote, "God protected us on Saturday as we slowed to a stop at a signal turning red. I glanced in my mirror to look at the vehicles behind me and noticed that the car right behind us was not at all slowing down. Made a split-second decision to pull quickly into the left turn lane/intersection, and that car blew past us through the intersection on a very solid red light. You guys, stay alert out there." Okay, so we know what time of day and what days of the week are the worst, and some tips to keep us safe on the road, but what month in the year is the deadliest for drivers? Summer and fall are the worst times to be on the road, and if you guess September as the worst month, you're absolutely correct. According to the NHTSA data, September sees an average of 106.48 fatal accidents per day across the United States. That's nearly 3% more than the second most dangerous month of June. Several factors likely contribute to September's grim toll. For one, the start of the new school year means a flood of inexperienced teenage drivers hitting the roads. The National Safety Council predicts that up to 545 people may lose their lives on the road over Labor Day weekend alone. Additionally, as the days get shorter and the weather starts to turn, drivers may be caught off guard by these changing road conditions. Tragically, these factors can combine to create a perfect storm of risk on the roads, particularly for young and inexperienced drivers. The combination of new responsibilities, changing routines, and challenging road conditions can be overwhelming, leading to an increased likelihood of accidents. Looking over all the data, including states which have the highest number of traffic deaths per 100,000 people, the absolute worst time to ever drive in America is arguably between 6 and 7 p.m. on a Saturday in September in Mississippi, which has 25.4 traffic deaths for every 100,000 people.
State of Mississippi.
In contrast, the safest time to drive in the United States is on a Tuesday morning in March between the hours of 3 and 4 a.m. in Massachusetts, which has 4.9 deaths for every 100,000 people. While these may be interesting facts to ponder, remember, every single number is a person who tragically lost their lives in what was most likely an avoidable accident. So unless you or I have someone else to drive us around everywhere we need to go,
I'll drive you around in my Lambo, don't worry.
we are going to have to put in a little more effort to help keep ourselves and everyone around us safe and help prevent a few more accidents. Ultimately, the most dangerous time to drive is whenever you're not fully present and alert. By staying vigilant, following traffic laws, and being prepared for the unexpected, you can greatly reduce your risk of being involved in a collision, whether it's your fault or not. So, buckle up, leave your stress and personal issues at home, keep your eyes on the road, and remember, it's better to be late than dead. If there's someone you know that needs to watch this video, please share it with them. Despite being entirely preventable, drinking and driving still claims the lives of 37 people in America every day. That's one fatality from alcohol-impaired driving every 39 minutes. Driving under the influence not only puts you and others in grave danger, but also carries lasting consequences. For starters, you could lose your license, or be required to pay exorbitant insurance rates for years, or worse yet, be convicted of vehicular manslaughter. Trust me, you don't want that. Just watch a few sentencing videos of people who are completely messed up, having to live with the fact that they killed someone. So in this video, I'm going to reveal which states are the worst for drunk driving, so you can be prepared the next time you're passing through, or know what you're getting into if you plan to move there. We'll compare both DUI arrests and alcohol-related fatalities from these sources here over a 5-year period. And you'll be surprised to find out that 4 of the top 5 are in a region of the United States that you were not expecting. Number 10, Oklahoma. Widely feared for its deadly tornadoes, which have killed 348 people since 1950. Oklahoma is home to some of the most frequent and powerful twisters. But here's a twist that you might not be expecting. You're 4,300% more likely to die from an impaired driver than a tornado, as they kill more people in just 2 years than all the tornadoes have in the last 75 years. The Sooner State ranks 10th in the nation for DUI arrests, which may be partly due to its zero-tolerance law for underage drinking and driving. But with 333.63 DUIs for every 100,000 drivers, there's a lot of impaired driving going on. I mean, check out this video of Oklahoma City Police Captain James French being arrested for a DUI.
How much we had to drink tonight, sir?
I am above the law!
Sorry, James, we ain't turning off the body cam. You're going to jail. In Oklahoma, almost 25% of all traffic deaths are caused by drunk drivers. So the next time you're passing through Oklahoma in May and are fearful of those tornadoes that might be coming through, just remember, you're far more likely to die from a drunk driver than a tornado. Number 9, Missouri. The gateway to the West and home of the Ozarks may be just the place you're planning to vacation this year, but take some extra caution on the road with you, because the Show Me State has shown us some gruesome statistics when it comes to drinking and driving, including one of its own police chiefs, Greg Hall, who was hammered drunk back in 2022, and despite failing every conceivable test, was ultimately hugged and driven home by another police chief.
Nathan, if I take him home, or are you going to have any issues?
Not at all. Not at all, Chief.
A sickening miscarriage of justice, especially when Missouri has 336.63 DUI arrests for every 100,000 drivers. Just because he was a police chief didn't mean that they should pat him on the back and take him home.
You've always said, Chief, no one is above the law.
All that does is encourage more drunk driving, which causes 28.54% of all traffic deaths in the state. Number 8, South Carolina. If you're headed out to South Carolina during Bike Week, or any other time for that matter, be on the alert for drunk drivers.
You know, I drive drunk all the time.
Some studies out there are showing South Carolina to be the worst in the nation for drunk driving, based off of just last year's statistics and also a DUI loophole that many are pretty upset about, saying it allows DUI convicts to keep driving. So even though they have 257.93 DUI arrests for every 100,000 drivers each year, they see far less convictions, and many are repeat offenders. In South Carolina, just over a third of all traffic deaths are caused by drunk drivers, and there are 7.57 drunk drivers involved in fatal crashes for every 100,000 drivers. Number 7, New Mexico. I've never understood why this is considered the land of enchantment, because all I think about is rock formations, red dirt, and alien conspiracies, but I guess that's enough for some in this last stretch of the Wild West. Maybe the good old folks of New Mexico should go back to horseback riding though, because their drunk drivers are out of control. Check out this video of a 12-year-old girl being arrested for drunk driving. Yeah, that's way too young to be drinking or driving, let alone both and being drunk.
Hey, I've been driving drunk since I was 12.
Or this former New Mexico police officer sentenced to 26 years for killing 2 people after driving down the wrong way while completely intoxicated. 32.02% of all traffic deaths in New Mexico are caused by drunk drivers, and these drivers make up nearly 8 in every 100,000 drivers that are involved in fatal accidents. One thing I found curious was that the DUI arrests, like South Carolina, are below 300 for every 100,000 drivers, meaning more end up not getting caught before the damage is done. Number 6, Oregon. If you know anything about Oregon, you know that people are weird here, especially in Portland, so it doesn't surprise me that some of them think it's fine to mix drinking with driving. They probably just think it's part of keeping Portland weird, but driving drunk isn't something to be confident about or a cultural norm that's worth preserving. Not only does it cost taxpayers $1 billion a year in this state, it also takes away precious life that cannot be quantified. Drunk drivers cause 35.89% of all traffic deaths in the state, which is the 3rd highest in the nation. And there are 393.76 DUI arrests for every 100,000 drivers. Number 5, North Dakota. This northern state is known for its harsh winters and agricultural products like wheat and oil, but now you also know it's one of the top 5 states with the worst drunk drivers. It's also a major rail transportation hub, with BNSF operating one of its largest freight networks, and I-94 being a major east-west route that runs across the state. With all that transportation and, of course, dumb people,
I hit bottom when drunk driving arrest.
It's no wonder alcohol-related driving is so high. Nearly 1/3 of all traffic deaths are caused by drunk drivers in North Dakota, even though they have the 2nd highest level of DUI arrests in the nation, at 832.5 per 100,000 licensed drivers. You know, it probably would be better off if they went back to railway transportation exclusively, since 6.11 out of every 100,000 drivers are drunk when they are involved in fatal accidents. Number 4, Wyoming. As the home of Yellowstone National Park and one of the more beautiful, quiet states in America that also has the lowest population of any state, it's kind of surprising that Wyoming is also known for its horrendous drivers. This actually affected me personally too. As a young boy, my family and I vacationed twice in Yellowstone, and both times on our way home, we were stopped for over 4 hours due to a driving incident. Now, of course, I don't know if alcohol was involved, but the more recent time was a full-size tractor trailer that was completely on fire, and a lot of people were saying he was recklessly driving right before this happened. You'd think that a low-population state with far less drivers than any other state would never make such a list, but unfortunately, the people of Wyoming have some serious education to pass on that drunk driving kills. More than 1/3 of all traffic fatalities are caused by drunk drivers, and they are the 3rd highest in the nation for DUI arrests at 629.12 for every 100,000 drivers. They are also the 3rd highest in the nation for the number of those drunk drivers involved in fatal crashes, compared to the total number of licensed drivers at 8.22. So on your next trip to Yellowstone, be cautious on the road and don't drive if you've had too much to drink. Number 3, Texas. When I asked my mother-in-law recently which state she thought was the worst state for drunk driving, she immediately said Texas. Now, it wasn't the answer I was looking for, but it sure was close. I get the feeling that everyone knows just how bad drivers are in Texas, but add alcohol to the mix and it's even worse. In fact, there were almost 1,100 alcohol-related deaths in Texas just last year. And for every 100,000 drivers, there are nearly 340 arrests each year for DUIs. Many feel like it's not even enough because Texas is the 2nd highest in the nation for the number of impaired drivers involved in traffic deaths. And they rank 2nd in the nation for traffic deaths directly caused by drunk drivers at 42.37%. They weren't kidding when they said everything was bigger in Texas, but let's hope and pray these numbers start coming down. Number 2, South Dakota. Probably most famous for Mount Rushmore and the Badlands, South Dakota draws in about 15 million visitors every year. That's 15 times its own population of 1 million people. In fact, the famous Sturgis motorcycle rally alone attracts 500,000 visitors each year and results in over 100 DUI arrests at each event. Drunk drivers in South Dakota cause 35.14% of all traffic deaths, and 5.6 out of every 100,000 licensed drivers are impaired when involved in fatal crashes. They also have the highest DUI arrests in the nation at 879 for every 100,000 drivers. That's a lot of bad decisions, and it makes you wonder how many are repeat offenders. And what do you know, here's another police chief that couldn't keep his hands off the wheel after drinking, setting a very poor example to young drivers in South Dakota. Well, I don't know about you, but the Badlands just got a whole new definition for me. Alright, before we get to number 1, I wanted to highlight some other sobering statistics. In 2020, alcohol consumption among adults over 30 increased significantly in the United States as people isolated in their homes for, well, reasons I won't mention, or YouTube might label this video and demonetize me for saying some trigger words. Anyway, of course, statistics started showing an increase in deadly car crashes involving drunk drivers. But as life returned to normal and people began to get out more in 2021 and beyond, drunk driving deaths only continued to rise. As a nation, we've actually backpedaled and are now at rates we haven't seen in over 20 years. Number 1, Montana. Shocking, isn't it? In fact, take a look at this map. Aside from Texas, the worst states for drunk driving are concentrated right here in the upper Midwest to West region of the United States. All of these states have lower populations, high visitor counts, or see a lot of traffic pass through them, and makes you wonder what exactly is contributing to all these poor decisions. For Montana, much of it is due to the work hard, play hard lifestyle, which often includes alcohol as a reward for hard work. With so little public transportation and many young, bored drivers looking for something to do, or pressure from friends, or overconfidence, drunk driving has become a serious problem in this state. For the amount of drunk driving in Montana, only 450.5 DUI arrests for every 100,000 drivers seems kind of low to me. Nearly 44% of all traffic deaths are caused by drunk drivers, the highest in the nation. Even Mothers Against Drunk Driving ranks Montana as dead last in DUI prevention, which contributes to hundreds of lives being destroyed every year, especially when offenders keep getting back on the road. Out of every 100,000 licensed drivers in Montana, 8.57 are drunk when involved in fatal crashes. So yeah, Montana has a serious problem.